a discussion with Thomas O. Scarborough on the mind-body problem. Daily Philosophy Magazine, 2 December 2022. In this discussion, Thomas O. Scarborough, author of Everything Briefly, a postmodern philosophy, ex-UK top 10 philosophy website editor, and a congregational minister, presents us with a new take on Descartes' legacy and the mind-body problem. 1. What is the mind-body problem?
The French philosopher René Descartes wrote famously, "I think, therefore I am." His first word, unfortunately, was a mistake, a classic example of a suppressed inference. He assumed that the I think, was an immaterial soul which interacted with a material body, and the rest is history. Descartes certainly had a commonsensical view. On the surface of it, my life seems real to me through and through. It seems that I'm living in a real world. It's not imagined or illusory. Further, it seems to me that I am an observer in this world, not merely a robotic presence there. That is where consciousness comes in. Therefore, on this basis, it would seem to me that I have a mind that observes reality, mind here, reality there, which separates my mind from the things that it observes and separates it from my body.
2. Yet common sense does not always make good philosophy.
Let us try to formulate Descartes' position very simply. An immaterial soul, A, causes a material body, B, to move. Let us simplify this further. A causes B. Yet we have an obvious problem here. We cannot use A and B in the same sentence if the cause and effect are two different kinds of thing. Aristotle long ago pointed out that there are 4, perhaps 5 different types of cause, and one cannot mix and match them at will. I fire a bullet at a church bell. This causes a whole village to awake from its afternoon slumbers. But I cannot fire a bullet, say, at fear. Likewise, I cannot assume that fear will, say, make the sun go out. Descartes' philosophy of mind failed because he made a category mistake. An immaterial soul cannot make matter to move.
3. You claim that there is a problem more basic than that.
Yes, but now I need to issue a warning that we are entering into very abstract territory. This is not easy philosophy. Causality requires that one thing causes another thing. For that to happen, we must name and define those things which are causes. But here we run into an insurmountable problem. The full argument is in Daily Philosophy. The article is titled Passing Beyond Descartes. But in the received view of philosophy, to put it too simply, we have the basic categories of things and relations between things. However, on closer analysis, we find that this distinction breaks down. Wherever we examine relations between things, there we find new things in their place. And wherever we find new things in their place, there we find new relations. When we seek to define things and the relations which exist between them, we find an infinite regress.
4. Could you give an example of that?
It happens to be a very hot day. With this heat, I say, we shall soon have thunder. But how do I explain that? In fact, I do not know. A friend offers, heat rises, clouds form, charges separate, that makes lightning and thunder. Thus, a simple explanation of the relation of heat to thunder reveals new things, clouds and charges and lightning, but with new things I have new relations between things, and with new relations there will be new things. Like a fractal image, things and relations reach into infinity. The more closely we look at them, the more closely we see, and more their essence flee away. They do not exist in themselves. Ultimately, we have no A's or B's.
5. You point to philosophers who support this view.
They do. Some say that it makes perfect sense on paper, but we have to dismiss it because it simply cannot be. Others accept it more at face value. Anna Marmorero and Erasmus Meyer write in Metaphysics and Introduction, there is no genuine singularist causation. They were referring there to Hume. Similarly, Bertrand Russell observed, if the inference from cause to effect is to be indubitable, it seems that the cause can hardly stop short of the whole universe. It might seem at first to stretch the imagination, but that is a necessary conclusion, because things do not exist in themselves. Cause and effect cannot be shown to exist. This applies to every cause and effect, whether upward, downward, backward, forward, metaphysical, physical, or mental. The physicist Percy Bridgman wrote, the causality concept is relative to the whole background of the system which contains the causally connected event. It is not an absolute concept.
6. What does this mean for your view of the mind-body problem?
Just as we cannot state that an immaterial soul A causes a material body B to move, so we cannot say that A exists in the first place or B exists in the first place. The core question of the philosopher of mind David Chalmers is, what links the two? What links A and B? This question now becomes passé. It becomes moot. We may formulate it again like this. A causes B. But the problem now is that neither A nor B can be shown to exist. We do not call this now a category mistake, like fear making the sun go out. We call it an ontological mistake. It has to do with what exists and what does not.
7. But if A and B do not exist, you have nothing more to say.
It might seem at first glance that we've evaporated all further argument about mind and body, or immaterial soul and body, not to speak of consciousness, will, spirit, or anything else besides. It might seem that we have nothing left to say. But we do. Even though we have no A's or B's, no things which cause things, no events which produce events, no objects, entities, elements, and so on, we do still speak about A's and B's, and we do still speak about mind and body. This means necessarily, it has to mean, that we create them where they do not exist. We launch them, as it were, from ourselves in a world where A's and B's are not found. We bring them into being, ex nihilo. This reveals a fundamental problem when we speak about the mind in particular. If we create A's and B's, we create mind A and body B. But now if we discuss the mind in terms of something which the mind itself created, we are in a jam. It's like looking through red spectacles and saying that everything looks red. Red spectacles prove to us that the whole world is red. Likewise, mind proves to us that mind is mind.
8. Where does this leave us?
The philosopher Isaiah Berlin said that the best philosophy, rather than providing answers, reformulates the questions. I question whether we have at this point in time moved beyond the problem of Descartes. We still think as Descartes did, insofar as our problem is A causes B, and how is that? The physicist Ernst Mach wrote, there is no cause nor effect in nature. And here I think lies the problem and the solution, our concept of causality. The body-mind problem has something to do with the way that we create causality. It has something to do with the way that we name and define things, and of course with what lies beyond those names and definitions. If causality really works in the simple, enclosed kind of way we usually think it does, then we have a problem with mind. If there is something not so simple about causality, somehow some loose ends, then we may be closer to a solution to the mind-body problem. I shall call this the causal problem of mind.